What's up, everybody? This is Tony Vinchealle with the Stronger You Fitness, ASU Fit, and the Becoming a Stronger You movement. Okay, so today's topic is about how to adjust and customize your food amount and your food type. It says you can't see the comments in horizontal. I can actually, hey Keitha, thank you for hopping on, by the way. I can see them. Now, I don't know if because it's horizontal, there's a little bit more of a delay, but I can actually see your comments. So if you've been commenting before, I apologize. Maybe there's a little bit more of a delay, but I can see your comments and I can see everybody. So thank you for joining me today. So again, we are going to be discussing how to adjust your food type and your food amount based on your body type. And one of the reasons why I get so excited about teaching this topic is because there are bits and pieces of this topic that are thrown out all over the internet. And there are personal trainers and nutritionists and registered dietitians and all kinds of fitness professionals who throw out little bits and pieces of the information, but they never actually give the full story. So today I'm going to give you the full story of why your body is shaped the way that it's shaped, along with what you were supposed to do to customize your own eating plan. And the cool thing about what I'm going to teach you today is that it has absolutely nothing to do with counting calories, and it has nothing to do with writing out all of your macros. All right, so it's an awesome method. Hey Naisha, it's an awesome method that I'm going to teach you on how to be able to customize this using your hands, your thumbs, and you won't have to count any calories and you won't have to count your macros. So super excited about that. So what are we discussing today? I'm going to talk to you today about the 3 body types, but I'm not just going to mention them. I'm going to tell you what they are, what they mean, and why they are important to your physiology and why they are important to how you choose the different types of foods that you eat. And I'm going to show you how to adjust your meals using a simple method, and all you need is your hands. No additional apps or anything like that. You just need your hands. So let's go ahead and get started. So the 3 body types, hey Miss Nifa, that we're going to discuss today, you probably have already heard. Endomorphic body type, mesomorphic body type, and ectomorphic body type. Now you've probably heard those, but and you've probably seen the picture where they put the 3 people next to each other, and you've got the real tall skinny person, and you've got sort of like the shorter, more muscular person in the middle, and then you've got the chubbier person on the end. So they show you the picture, but they don't actually tell you where that comes from. One of the things that I tell my clients and that I try to explain to a lot of people is that your genetics really do play a role in how your metabolism works and what your body is and is not able to accomplish. Hey Jessica, thank you so much for sharing. It plays a role in what your body is able to accomplish and how long it takes your body to accomplish those things. Now, before I get started, let me go ahead and say this. Are genetics a factor in your ability to lose weight, in your ability to gain or develop lean muscle mass? Yes, they are. Are they an excuse for you not to do the best that you can with what you have? No, they are not. So I just want to go ahead and make that disclaimer before we go ahead and get started. Now, where do these body types come from? So whether or not you are an ectomorph or a mesomorph or an endomorph is dependent upon the tissues that were predominant while you were forming in your mother's womb. So around the 2nd week or towards the 2nd week of the development of the embryo, there are 3 different tissues that actually form. One of them is the outer layer, so that's the ectoderm, I apologize. Then there's the middle layer, that's the mesoderm. Hey Renee, how are you? That's the mesoderm. I don't know why I want to say dorm, but mesoderm. And then the innermost layer, which is the deepest layer, is the endoderm. Now what happens is your body type is determined on which one of those 3 tissues became predominant. Oh, thank you, Nick. Became predominant towards the end of the 2nd week of development of the embryo. So I'm going to say that again. Around the second week of development of the embryo, towards the end, there are 3 tissue layers that are formed: the ectoderm, the mesoderm, and the endoderm. And your body type is dependent upon which one of those 3 tissues became predominant during that time in your development. If you have any questions, let me know. This is actually pretty cool because I can see the comments now. So the ectoderm produces the epidermis, your skin layer, your sensory organs, so the lens around your eyes comes from the ectodermic tissue. The central nervous system, which is the nervous system for the brain, that's the brain and the spinal cord. The peripheral nervous system, which is the network of nerves that connects the central nervous system to the rest of your body and your tooth enamel. All right, so those are some of the organs that are formed from the ectodermic layer of tissue. Now, from the mesodermic layer, you get your bones, you get your muscles, so your smooth muscle and your skeletal muscle. You get your kidneys, your reproductive organs, your cardiovascular system, along with the blood. So that's what you get from that mesodermic tissue that forms in that time of development. Now, from the endodermic tissue, you get your intestinal mucosa, and what that is that's basically just the innermost lining of the gastrointestinal tract. You get your liver, you get your, oh, thank you, Misha, I'm glad. You get your liver, you get your pancreas, and you get your thyroid, all right? So again, whichever one of these tissues became predominant during your development as an embryo determines the type of body that you have. Now, here's what's important. Ectomorphs. So again, the ectomorphs are the people for whom that ectodermic tissue was predominant while they were an embryo. So they tend to be pretty frail for the most part. If they don't engage in resistance training, they're lean, they have very prominent skeletons. And the thing with the ectomorphs is that even if they don't have muscle maturity, even if their muscles are not very developed, because they tend to carry less body fat, it's still easy to see a lot of their musculature. Now, the thing with the ectoderm is a lot of people look at the taller, they're skinnier, they're thinner, and they look at those people and they say, man, she can eat and not gain any weight. Well, here's why that happens. In the ectoderm, or in the ectomorph, the thyroid tends to be a lot more active. And because the thyroid is a lot more active, they have to consume more calories in order to be able to properly function. So it's not just this fun thing where, oh, they can eat and not gain any weight. Physiologically, they actually have to consume more calories in order for their physiology to function properly. Now, the issue is that if the ectomorph is not careful, they can very easily cross that line into hyperthyroidism. And then there's an entire host of issues that come along with that. So what am I saying? I'm saying, and I say this all the time, I'm saying that because especially with women, we tend to look at people and say, man, I wish I could eat like her. I wish I could eat whatever I wanted to eat and not gain any weight. Not understanding that on the back end, there are some challenges associated with having that body frame. Hey, Sarah, how are you? Thank you for hopping on with me today. Now, the other thing with ectomorphs is that they tend to have weaker abdominal muscles. So if you are taller and thinner, you'll notice that as you start your resistance training, it's a lot more challenging for you to be able to see your six-pack. And the reason for that is because genetically they tend, oh, thank you, Sarah, I love you. They tend to have weaker abdominal muscles, and so it takes a lot more work to be able to develop those abdominal muscles. So even though they have the thinner layer of fat, and so you can see their muscles, it's a little bit harder to see their six-pack. Now, the other thing for the ectomorph is that because of the frailty, the natural frailty of their structure, it's almost, well, it is mandatory and imperative Yes, they are, Shaniqua. Absolutely. It's mandatory and imperative for them to engage in resistance training, because if they're not developing their muscles, they tend to have very bad postural issues. So if you've ever seen those tall people and they walk hunched over like this, it's because they're naturally prone to having bad posture. And so if they don't engage in resistance training, then that could seriously become a problem for them. Okay, so those are your ectomorphs. Those are your, hey Damon, those are your people who are, you know, thinner, frailer, tend to be a little bit taller, tend to be longer, tend to be leaner. You're a mess, dude. Okay, so let's go to the mesodorms, okay? So the mesodorms are the people who tend to be a little bit more muscular. So if you were in high school and you just saw those kids, and a lot of them tend to be athletes, and they just they just have muscle. It looks like they don't really have to do anything. They just have muscle. They are naturally muscular. And why is that? That is because when they were in utero, the mesomorphic tissue, or the mesodermic tissue, was predominant. And what do you get from the mesodermic tissue? You get the muscle. You get both the smooth muscle and the skeletal muscle. So because those were, thank you so much for those thumbs up, because those were the tissues that were predominant, then the mesoderm naturally is going to be able to carry more muscle. They're going to naturally have more muscle. They're going to have less of a challenging time putting on muscle. So they tend to be a little bit stockier. They tend to have thicker bones. And the interesting thing about this is that a lot of times people will look at an endomorphic person, which is the body type that we're going to discuss last. They will look at the endomorphic person and say, oh, she has big bones. Oh, he has big bones. When the fact of the matter is they don't have big bones. It's actually the mesomorphic person, the person that's got that natural musculature. Those are the people who tend to have the bigger bones. So I just wanted to throw that out there, because I know that's a common misconception. Now, they also tend to have smaller waistlines. So if you're looking at, if you're talking about women, mesodorms tend to naturally have sort of that Coke bottle shape. Their waistlines are a lot smaller, and so it's easier to see their back muscles. It's easier to tell the difference between their waist and their hips, and that's natural for them. Now, the other part of this is that mesomorph, I'm getting my words mixed up here. Mesomorphs tend to have more testosterone in their bodies. So it's what you call being testosterone dominant. And as a result, not only do they have that natural musculature, they have that natural muscle tone, but they also tend to have stronger features. So that's when, and again, if we're gonna discuss women, because the mesomorphic body type is typically found predominantly in men, and I'll talk to you about why. But when you see that in women, they tend to have very strong facial features. They tend to naturally have very strong jaw lines, and all of that. And again, that's because they are testosterone dominant. Now, the mesomorphic body type is typically found in men, and that's because evolution actually selected for men who were stronger, who were faster, who were more powerful, because those were the ones who were more likely to be able to hunt, and they were more likely to be able to protect the women and the offspring. And so in order to continue with the human race, you needed men, or biology needed men who had powerful muscles that could perform these explosive movements. So if you're hunting, what do you need to do? You need to be able to sprint. You need to be able to jump. You need to be able to throw. You need to be able to fight off another person or fight off an animal. And so typically the men who have that natural musculature tend to be more capable of doing that, hence the reason why nature actually selected for that body type in men. It says, until I did my body fat assessment, I thought my abs were packed, all my fat was my thighs. Yep. And that's a completely different thing. Now, the other thing that's interesting too about the mesomorphic body type is that physiologically their bodies are better able to handle outside stress. And when I say outside stress, I'm talking about mental and emotional, but I'm also talking about stress associated with, for example, living in Houston. And in a lot of areas in and around Houston, the air is pretty polluted. So you're breathing in all of these foreign chemicals that are not necessarily good for your body. And so the mesomorphic body type tends to be better at handling stress, all kinds of stress, outside stressors. Now, the mesomorphic body type typically will only have a weight problem when they overeat. However, if they get back into participating in regular and consistent resistance training, then they tend to rebuild that muscle memory. They tend to rebuild that muscle maturity and drop that weight with fewer challenges. It doesn't mean that they have no challenges, but they tend to do it with fewer challenges. And one of those, one of the reasons for that is because they naturally have more muscle. Okay. Now let's talk about the endomorphic body type. People with the endomorphic body type tend to be chubbier, and they tend to have a bit of a softer look. And that's because they have a thicker layer of fat over their muscles. And so endomorphic body type, people with the endomorphic body frame tend to have thicker thighs. And it's not because they're big boned. You have thick thighs, but that's not because you're big boned. If you are predominantly of the endomorphic body type. So they tend to have thick thighs and they tend to have thicker arms. Now, here's another thing that's interesting about the endomorphic body type. Their digestive systems are a lot more developed than the people with the mesomorphic body type and the people with the ectomorphic body type. And as a result of that, if they do not correct their posture, they tend to look like they have a pot belly even when they don't really have one. So for the endomorphic body type, especially for people who have children, it's extremely important that you are working with them on their posture, so that all of their body, that's your body type, Misha? Okay, so that everything forms the way that it should. Because when endomorphs have bad posture, even when they're smaller, they look like they have a pot belly, because that digestive system is a lot more developed, and so it's going to become a lot more prominent in their body type. Now, here's the thing with the endomorphic body type. Their metabolism, their predominant metabolic function is absorption. So if you ever hear anybody say, if I look at a French fry, it ends up on my butt. You know, if I look at a piece of cake, it ends up on my thighs. And people joke about those kinds of things. But in a sense, it's almost true for the endomorphic body type, because genetically their metabolism is designed for absorption, which means almost everything that you eat, your body is going to hold on to. Now, I say this, but let me go back to the comment that I made when we first started, okay? Are your genetics a factor? Yes, they are. Are your genetics an excuse? No, they are not, okay? Says, yes, I tell my son about his posture all the time. Absolutely, absolutely. And please make sure you continue to work with him on that, because that's got a lot, that's going to affect the way his body shapes as he becomes an adult. And it's also good for confidence and things of that nature. Instant 3 pounds. You are our best. Now, the endomorphic body type is typically found most often in women. And that's because, again, if we go back to nature, if we go back to evolution, the women with the additional layers of fat were seen as more optimal for childbearing, right? Because when you're carrying a child, your baby has to be able to sort of feed off of the different reserves that you have. So those additional fat layers made for more optimal childbearing. And so evolution sort of selected for that. So it selected the mesomorphic men because they were more likely to be able to protect, more likely to be able to hunt, and then selected for the endomorphic women because those were the women who were more likely to be able to bear children and have healthy babies. Now, In the endomorph, their thyroids are naturally slower. And because of that, that also causes their metabolisms to be naturally slower. And so if the endomorph is not careful, then the endomorph can run into having hypothyroidism. So all of these things are real factors in why certain people seem to be able to lose weight quicker than other people, in why certain people seem to be able to put on and develop muscle mass quicker than other people. Even with some of the injuries and having back pains and things of that nature. For example, endomorphs are more likely to have knee problems. And that's because during that time in their development, when the endomorphic tissue was becoming more predominant, they acquired a lot of mass. And because of the way their bodies are shaped, they're more likely to have knee problems. And also because of their physiology, their bodies are less able to deal with stress. And that's emotional, that's physical, that's environmental. Their bodies are less able to deal with stress. So understand that your genetics do play a role in what your body is able to do. Your genetics do play a role in how quickly you're able to lose weight. Your genetics do play a role in how quickly you're able to develop lean muscle and you know, how you're able to maintain it and all of those different things. Again, are your genetics a factor? Yes. Are your genetics an excuse? No. Okay? Does anybody have any questions so far before I get into exactly how you should customize your eating based on your body type? Does anybody have any questions? Let me know before I move on, because I know that was a whole lot of information. How much was that? That was like, okay, that's 24 minutes of information, so that was a lot. Seems like me, I seem to have thick muscle mass. Okay, Alicia, it says you talking to me lately, my knees have been bothering me. Yep. Let me get to what Alicia says, and I'm glad that you said that, because that brings up an interesting point. So it's important to understand that nobody is going to be completely one or the other, right? So there's not a person who is completely, yes, your hormones are playing a major role, absolutely, and that's where your eating is going to come into play as well. Nobody is going to be completely an ectomorph. Nobody is going to be completely an endomorph. Nobody is going to be completely a mesomorph, right? So typically your sprinters tend to be more like a meso-ecto. Okay, so they may be, you know, a little bit longer, but they've got that musculature, and the mesomorphic body type seems to be predominant. Whereas if somebody is a shot putter, that person, because of the sport and how that sport shapes their body, that person tends to be more of a meso-endomorphic type of person. So understand that nobody is completely one or the other. What you're looking for in your body is which one is the most predominant. And it is possible for your body to change structure because of your lifestyle. You could be a mesomorphic person naturally and push yourself into being more endomorphic because of the way that you eat, because of your lack of exercise, because of your lack of activity and things of that nature. So it's important to keep that in mind as well. It says, the more muscle I put on, the smaller I look, but the scale always says otherwise. And there are a lot of factors involved with that. A lot of people say, oh, muscle weighs more than fat. That makes no sense. That's like if somebody asks you, you know, if I have a pound of pennies and a pound of feathers, which one is heavier? They weigh the same. They are both 1 pound. It's just that muscle is a lot denser than fat is. And so when you lose body fat, you're losing a lot more surface area. And as you gain muscle, it's a lot more compact. So those are going to be the differences. But does anybody have any questions before I move on? Because now I'm going to go ahead and show you the hand method that you can use to be able to formulate your meals. And this can be done at home. This can be done when you go out to a restaurant. This can be done when you go to a party. It's a really cool technique that you can use that puts you in 100% control. Yep. That's true. That is absolutely true. Okay. So let's go ahead and break it down. So I'm going to show you this technique, and all you need are your hands. So we're going to start with the ectomorphic body type. Those are the people who are leaner, tend to be taller, tend to be thinner, tend to be a little bit more frail. Okay, so I'm going to do male first, and then I'm going to do female. If you are a male who is predominantly the ectomorphic body type, it says, is it better to use less weight and more reps when exercising? Okay, so Alicia, that's actually going to be on the topic that I'm going to discuss tomorrow. That's going to be part 4 of this series. So I'll table that for tomorrow, and I'll definitely make sure that I answer that question then. Okay, so if you are a male who is predominantly of the ectomorphic body type, this is what you do. For your protein, you're going to take your palm, okay, the size of your palm. Oh, no, you're fine, Alicia, no problem. Thank you for joining me, by the way. If you are a male, you're going to take 2 palms. 1 palm, 2 palm. Not your whole hand, just the size of your palm. And that's your protein. You're going to take 2 fists full, 2 fists, and that's going to be your vegetables. Now, you're going to cup your hands. This is for your carbs. You're going to cup your hands. I don't know if you can see that. You're going to cup your hands. 3 cupped handfuls, and that's going to be your carb. Whether you choose to do fruit, whether you choose to do potatoes, rice, that's how you're going to measure that. And then you're going to take one thumb, and this is going to be the amount of fat that you would add to your food. So, if you want to maybe add some almonds or some walnuts or something like that. Hey, Keitha. All right. So that's for the men. For the women, if you are predominantly of the ectomorphic body type, you're going to take 1 palm, and this is your protein, whether that's meat, whatever meat, chicken, fish, beef, 1 palm. 1 fistful of vegetables. You're going to cup your hands, 2 cupped handfuls of either rice, potatoes, fruit, whatever your carb of choice is going to be. And then you're going to take your thumb, and you're going to take half of your thumb, and that would be the amount of fat that you would add. So if you're going to use, nuts, whatever your choice would be. Okay? So that's for the person who's predominantly ectomorphic. If you are mesomorphic, again, those are going to be the people with the natural musculature. You can see their muscles. They have the thinner waist, strong, powerful muscles. If you are a mesomorph and you are a man, 2 palms of your protein, 2 fists of your vegetables, 2 cupped handfuls of your carbs, whether that's going to be, again, rice, potato, fruit, whatever you choose. And then 2 thumbs of your fats. If you are a woman of the mesomorphic body type, you're going to take 1 palm of your protein, 1 fist for your vegetables, 1 cupped handful of your carbs, and 1 complete thumb for your fats. Okay? If you are of the endomorphic body type, your body is predominantly endomorphic, you're chubbier, you tend to look thicker, you have those additional fat layers, a bit harder for you to be able to see your muscles. Thank you for sharing, Keitha. If you have that body type, then if you are a man, you will take 2 palms, 2 palms for your protein, 2 fists for your vegetables, 1 cupped handful for your rice, potatoes, fruit, and then 3 thumb sizes of fat. So that's 1, 2, 3 thumbs of, again, whatever your fat of choice is going to be, seed, nuts, whatever that's going to be. If you are a woman who is predominantly of the endomorphic body type, 1 palm of protein, chicken, fish, beef, whatever you got, 1 fist of vegetables. You're going to take a half, so you're going to cup your hand, and a half of a cupful of a cupped handful of whatever your carb of choice is going to be, and then 2 thumbs of, thank you, Alicia, 2 thumbs of fat. That's what you're going to use. Now, let me tell you the reason why this is an excellent way to be able to customize your food. So, it says everybody's body is different and we all can't lose weight like the next person. Thank you, Neek. Thank you. I'm glad it's providing you some value. So the reason why this is a really cool method and the reason why this method works is because it takes some of the pressure off of you. I used to always write metabolism-based meal plans, and I had calories and I had macros and all of that. And one of the things that I found is that and they work really, really well. But for my clients, it wasn't really sustainable long term, because the idea was, okay, I'm your coach now, but what if I decide that next week I want to pick up and move to Costa Rica? You're not going to sit there and write your own calories. You're not going to sit there and count your macros all of the time. And for the professional who's busy, for the entrepreneur who barely has time to even make a meal, me asking you to pull out an app and count all of your macros and count all of your calories can sometimes be a lot more time consuming than it's worth. And what I tend to find is that when people use this method, you find that people are either eating way less using this method than they normally do, or for the people who tend to kind of starve themselves, are eating a lot more. Either way, in either one of those extreme situations, it tends to be really, really good for their metabolisms, and they do start to lose weight. Now, if you get to the point to where it's about 4 or 5 weeks and you've hit a plateau and you are using this system, and you're 100% compliant with using the system and you hit a plateau, then at that point it may be time to do something a little bit more. Yes, ma'am. One fist of vegetables for the endomorphic body type. Yes, ma'am. And I'm actually going to put this, so I'm going to try to see if I can clip it from Facebook Live. If I can, then I'm also going to put this in a podcast like I did with the other videos. But I have an infographic that has all of this information. It's got pictures, it tells you exactly what to do. And if you want to download that, you can download that at www.asufit.com/4busy professionals. So if anybody is able to type that into the comments for me, I'd really appreciate that. So it's www.asufit.com/4busy professionals. And if you go to that link, you can download the infographic, and I'll show you kind of what it looks like. It looks like, it looks like this, and it's literally, a PDF report that you can download with, all kinds of pictures and it basically goes over everything that I have talked about. So again, www.asufit.com/4busy-professionals. Now this method is used for about 3 to 4 meals per day. So that's 3 to 4 meals per day. And remember, your palm is for your protein, your fists are for your vegetables, your cupped hands are going to be for your carbs, and your thumbs are for your fats. So that is what I have for you today. I hope that this was helpful. I hope you learned a lot. If you did, please like, comment, and share this video. I would definitely appreciate it. I will upload this on my blog at the end of the week. So that's going to be at www.asufit.com/blog. I will also turn this into a podcast so that you can listen to this on your way to work, on your way to the office, and that podcast is at www.soundcloud.com/ASUFit. If you go there now, the very first podcast that I did in the series is there, along with another podcast episode on emotional eating as well. So all of these are going to go into podcasts. You can find me on social media, on Facebook, on Instagram, and on Twitter at A Stronger You. So that's ASTRONGERU, the letter U. And that's about it. And my website is www.asufit.com. Yes, so Misha, thank you so much. So it's asufit.com and then /4busy-professionals. Yes, www.asufit.com for busy professionals. And I'll make sure that I type that down here in the link a little bit later on today. Does anybody have any questions, anything that I can answer? It says, thank you. Was okay. Oh, thank you. I'm so glad that you got some value out of it. Well, if anybody comes up with any additional questions at the end of this, feel free to post them in the comments and I will get to those later on today. And again, if you want to download that infographic, it's www.asufit.com/for busy professionals. I love you all. Thank you so much for tuning in to me today. And until we speak again, stay strong, stay beautiful, and always, always, always work towards becoming a stronger you. Peace out.